So in this video we're going to pick up with the hiring plan tab. Now this is something that depending on your unit you may use a lot. You may want to use it more than what's here, or you may not use it at all. What this is going to help us do are add to our projected work year execution numbers based upon what we know, or what we think we know, our best educated guess. So the way this works, so the only formula in here is in this top pay period, and it's going to go back to this work year execution tab and find what you plugged in as the first pay period end date. And that's important because that's going to set the rest of this schedule, and they will update for you. So if I were to come back here and change this first pay period update, let's just say it ended for some reason on the 6th. Okay, I'm going to come back in here. This updated, the rest of this updated as well. And there's other things in here we'll go over later. But in this year it ends on the 3rd, so I'm going to keep it as the 3rd. You'll just want to make sure you check that. Make sure that these numbers are all lining up. I considered protecting these worksheets so that you couldn't potentially come in and break it or whatever. But I remembered back to whenever I learned how to do this, and I got curious and started playing around, made a copy on my desktop that wasn't linked to anything and just broke it and figured out how it worked. So I definitely wanted to give you the same opportunity if you were so inclined. The next column is pay period, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 27. I went out several years just to check for myself how many pay periods could be in a fiscal year, and in every case I'm coming up with 27 as the max. In the next few years it's kind of convenient because they seem to end on 30 September or something like that. So work years remaining. This is a simple calculation. So if we're in the first pay period and, for example, someone were to stay on for the whole year, that's one work year that's going to be executed. As we continue throughout the year, there's going to be a fraction of a work year. If that member were to say, let's go into this one, let me select, let's say I hired one additional permanent hire. It's going to do a calculation of 0.656 work years. That's how many work years would be executed by that member that came on at that particular time in the year. So that's what that means, and we use this in the calculation. So what would you do? You would come in and coordinate with your HR liaison and plug in some numbers. There's some drop downs here, but let me just, for some reason, put in 9. You're going to hire 9, and you just know that these are 9 additional people. But this didn't update at all. Let me go ahead and put 9 in these, see what happens. So now we've got some projected work year consumption. Now what's going on when I'm creating this video? This current work year here is in the books. If I run my R60, this pay period plus all of these are already in the books. The numbers are reflected, and anybody that we've hired or not hired or something like that, it's already accounted for with respect to trend, and depending on how we're doing our extrapolation, how many work years we think we're going to get to. So what really matters are the things that are not in the data yet. And so what we can do with our projections is affect our projections based upon what we think is going to happen. But once it's already happening in the data, we don't want to account for it additionally. So that's what you would do in here. You would talk with your HR and say, oh, we've got a couple permanent hires here. We're going to let go of 2 temps. So for this particular pay period, we're going to have a net of 351 negative work years, 0.351, and then that's going to that's for a year, so that's going to extrapolate all the way out to the end. And then once this pay period's over, then it won't be summing, this formula here won't be summing that information anymore. LWOP, you're going to want to enter in hours. So 2096 for FY16. Next year it'll be 2088. That's how many hours in one work year. So if I were to enter 2096, it knows that's one work year, and LWOP is of course going to have a negative effect on executing work years. Same thing here. Once the LWOP is in the data, we don't want to deal with it anymore. It doesn't matter to us, and we don't want to over project on things like that. So that's how you would do that. If you have that level of communication, that's how you would use this, and it'll feed in to the other report. So like I said, make a copy, break it. It's going to be available to you on the SharePoint. So feel free to go ahead and get in here and start to understand how all this stuff works. The next video we're going to get into the work year execution tab and start to explain what what are the results of all of this work that we're doing. See you in the next video.